This is the Angelbird CFExpress Type B card, a card that's going to kind of redefine the space and help the technology move along. It's going to become the go-to card, in my opinion, for 2022. So let's talk about the why. Welcome back to another video. My name is Nikos. Today we're talking about the Angelbird CFExpress Type B card, a card that has 800 megabytes per second sustained speed at a price point of $179. Just awesome. Just awesome. Why? Because right now, if you get into a new camera like the Canon R5, you need a CFExpress Type B card, and yeah, they're expensive. They are. Now, in the industry, you could buy super expensive cards that are really expensive, super fast, mind you, and super reliable, or you can go get some budget-friendly ones that are made like maybe in China or some new companies that have come out that I saw in the States, but their speed isn't there. It's like 400 megabytes per second, and then you don't know about the reliability as well. Now, you have this company that's popped up in the last few years, and it's like they mean business. They mean business, and they're upping the ante on everything that they're doing. They just released like 4 new cards. They remade their 2 main ones, the Pro versions, and the XT cards. They're MK2s now. So what can I say? I'm really excited. Now, in my journey testing out the SanDisk, I was like, what is going on? They don't even have a sustained write speed. They can't back up anything with what they're doing. And I found some issues. I'll leave that link below. And I did go out and purchase a whole bunch of these different cards. What can I say? They're performing. They're performing. And I'll leave a full link below on the full video on the different cards I did purchase. I am getting the MK2. I will be making more of the individual videos, so do hit subscribe so you can see those. And of course, when I get the MK2, those are going to be the ones I keep pending that they do what they're supposed to do, but from what I'm seeing with all the other cards, I'm not going to be disappointed. And on top of that, there is this idea of the company actually standing by their word. And the support has been amazing. I literally got the MK1s of the pros, and I called them up and I'm like, yo, something's going on here. And like, we're going back and forth, testing different things out there, actually being supportive, and they're trying to figure out things so they can address the issues that I found. And now, mind you, they weren't big issues, smaller issues. And along, came this card when I purchased it. And honestly, this is a great go-to card for almost anybody. The idea here is workflow. What do you need for your workflow? Now, when you're looking at a card like this, the SE version comes with 512 gigabytes. It has 800 megabytes per second sustained write speed, which covers almost every aspect of video for almost every camera that needs a Type B CFExpress card. Now, the thought process here is very simple. You need this for video, you go for this for video. And the way they market it is that this is a video-centric one, and then there's the SX version that is for photography. But in my opinion, this will do you great for almost all cameras with the exception of the flagships. The flagships really need a faster card, and yes, they do have those with this company, but there's a whole bunch of other companies that make awesome super fast cards, and you want to be taking a look at all of them before you make a decision for yourself. Now, for everybody that's just looking at something like the Canon R5 on the video, this does like awesome. Like, you got to look at your bit rate, but the R5 only needs up to 400 megabytes per second on the video, so you're covered on almost every setting with a card like this. Okay. Secondly, what we want to look at is the photography. Now, when you're looking at your cameras, like, people are going for those super high-end cards, and they're thinking that's what they're going to need because maybe the camera does 20 frames per second or 30 frames per second. And we're talking like big data being moved because these bigger cameras are doing like, 40, 50, 60 megabytes per photo. So you're seeing that per second, a lot of data has to move. However, you have to check your camera to make sure that the camera actually does what it says it does. So when it says 20 frames per second, like in the Canon R5, well, that's only for specific settings. And in these specific settings, you got to be like really optimal with everything, including the battery. So you're never actually going to be reaching that in real world. You're going to be getting around 16 to 17 to 18 photos per second. So let's put that right there. And the biggest reason is the buffer. The buffer is actually not doing what you expect it to do. The buffer is not up to par. And the idea here would be that if you did buy a faster card, you're never going to actually utilize the top speeds of that card because the camera is not going to use it. That's it. Done deal. Now, on the flagships, you are. So let's clear that up and get that out of the way, because I'm going to show you the numbers so you can see what this card does. Again, I have the other video linked below for all the cards that I was testing. And of course, the idea here is to look at these numbers and ask yourself, what card do I actually need at what price point? So let's jump into those numbers right now. Now we're going to start off with the numbers of recovery. This would be you holding down the shutter, taking a whole bunch of pictures, and then letting go of the shutter and letting the buffer empty. This would be the images moving right onto the card and allowing the buffer to be free again so you can fill it up again. Now, there are two reasons for this. One is because you might be shooting a lot of things and you want to catch all the images and you want to know how long it will be where the buffer is freed up again. On the other end, you might be a hybrid shooter who often switches to video like I do, and you want to know how long it's going to take for the buffer to empty so you can switch to video mode. That's something that in the Canon R5, I'm finding it was a hassle with the one card I purchased, SanDisk, and I found that in different situations, because it runs hot, this would be a little bit different as well. And you look at it and you go, okay, where's the quality of the card? So in this case, we're going to look at this number, and we do find that it's running in at a nice 3.94 seconds. So 4 seconds for it to empty. And then on the RAW and JPEG, it's 4.23 seconds. So these these are averages, and they're not that bad. I can't complain on this. Now, mind you, you're going to get this kind of a number when you are in electronic mode. And of course, you're shooting a lot of photos in this case, going up to 17 photos per second. So again, not everybody will be shooting at this amount, and you're not always going to be needing to empty the buffer and it take 4 seconds. Now, when we're looking at it in terms of buffer being filled, RAW and CRAW here, we have 79 photos at 3 seconds, and of course 134 photos at 8 seconds for the CRAW. So we can see that we're filling up around 80 photos in around 3 seconds for RAW, and this is what people usually shoot at, which brings us to about 16.79 photos per second. And the idea here is that, again, you're thinking that the Canon R5 in this case, which we're testing with, is going to hit 20 photos per second, and it couldn't be furthest from the truth. Again, this is because the buffer is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be able to empty at the pace that the camera and the manufacturer specs is saying, but I have confirmed this with the Ordinary Filmmaker, which, by the way, you should go and subscribe. Great guy. And of course, the company has also confirmed this, that they did their testing and they saw the same kind of results, which in their opinion, it came back down to the buffer. Now, I did test the 3-second burst, and this is images per second at 17.45 when the card is cold and not used. After 1 minute of video, it's literally decreased by, nothing. It's negligible here. Again, very good on the material they've used and the controller, and you're not seeing much issue if you're using the card. And to further elaborate this, when the card is hot, so I've used it to the extent where I'm shooting in HQ until the heating warning sign comes on, I didn't see much of a drop. It was about about a photo and a half. So I mean, not bad at all. When you compare it to the SanDisk, and I threw this stat in here, and I did throw the stats for the other two cards as well. The Angelbirds are all averaging around 16 photos, where the SanDisk dropped down to 13.6 photos. I did this test so many times. Again, SanDisk had several problems. I will leave the link below for you to see the video on that. So is this the go-to card? And the answer, yes, it is. It is a go-to card for almost everybody. Now, if your workflow needs a faster card or it needs more space, then yeah, go for the higher end cards and spend the money. However, the idea here is that there are more cards that Angelbird has released. One of them is the MK2 version of this MK1, the Pro version, and that's coming in at $479. Now, that card is faster sustained write speed, and it's a 1 terabyte card, and they do have options for 2 and 3. But at 1 terabyte, it's coming in at $479. Like, I can't tell you how impressed I am by that. So the idea here is that this is cheaper because of the 800 megabytes per second sustained speed at 512 gigabytes. It's really marketed for video, but fits the needs for photography as well. And the idea here is workflow. Now, I'm going to be going for the MK2s with the 1 terabytes. Why? Because my workflow needs it, or else I would have stuck with these. I need it for my workflow. if it wasn't for my workflow, I'd be going for multiple of these. In fact, I'd probably buy 4 of these instead of buying the 4 I'm getting with the MK2s. I'm technically buying 3 and then buying a 4th one after if I get the R5C, or I'm going to wait to see what happens after. Because I got the R6, I'm probably going to sell it for another R5 or R5C, or wait for that R1 to come out and see what that's all about, because I'm really excited about the capabilities that's going to come with. But who knows by that time what cards we need. Now, how does this fit the narrative for workflow? So I can explain my workflow so you can think about your workflow. I have a Canon R5. The Canon R5, due to the situation of cards and Canon not wanting to, convince somebody not to buy the camera because the card is too expensive. The idea is that they put an SD card in there and a CFExpress Type B card. So the backup that's happening has to go to that SD card. Now I have 2 SD cards, and literally I'm going to back up to those 2 for every card I have, whether it would be this or a terabyte. Okay. And at that, I know that not everything's going to be backed up, because when you're shooting certain settings like the slow-mo, well, that's not going to be recorded to the SD card. So you do have that buffer room to utilize the SD cards if you need to in a situation. However, for me personally, I look at it and I say, in most of my shoots, what will occur is that I get to that 500 gigabyte zone, and then I go over based on all those extra, whether I'm shooting slow-mo or I'm using one of the other features of the 8K, and you're going, oh, okay, so some of those settings don't work, and then I end up having another 200-300 gigabytes that are going to be on the card that aren't going to be in the SD cards. And I'd like to just change those and know, hey, at 256 gigabytes, I'm going to have to change it. So I keep a mental note, and I'll swap that card out, and then I put in the next card to back up. And then I make a mental note on that so that I know that once I hit that cap, whatever I've shot on that terabyte, it comes off. And then I replace it with the other set. And at that time, I just move everything off those cards that I had just removed. So I let that kind of have a backup. And then I'll either keep the SD cards like just not touched, or the CFExpress card, depending on what the day will bring. So the thought process is very simple workflow. And if you need anything more than this, then yeah, go for it. But I tell you, most people will be super happy with this at 179. Even if you bought this card, and this is how I thought it when I saw them. Even if you buy this card, okay, and say you buy this card and you look at it in the grand scheme of things, at 179, having a backup card that you never use and you just have it in your bag just in case, for 179, how can you complain? How can you complain? Okay. So for that reason, just a great card overall. So 1 is that speed, 2 is that price point, and 3rd, I just want to touch up on this again, it's the support. The support has been great. Honestly, they're standing by their product in every conversation I've had, and they are sitting there going, let me look at the data, let me figure out what's going on, let me get back to you. And yes, it's taking a while over time to figure out different things and how I wanted to really put an emphasis on the specific needs I had. And they're just kind of like, yeah, let's go through your workflow. Let's figure out what you need, and let's explain why you're seeing what you're seeing with your Canon R5, and let's compare it to the flagships to figure out what is going on there. And this is where we came up with the buffer, especially when I was talking to Ordinary Filmmaker. And the thought process here is very simple. This is kind of like what I was expecting with SanDisk based on my experience with SanDisk, where SanDisk, since they were bought out, I haven't seen what I was used to see, and why the trust is not there, and the reliability now, I'm just questioning it. And these guys are backing it up with good warranty, and they're backing it up with that idea that if anything does happen, when you send them the card, they actually have a NDA that they signed. So I mean, you don't see that often with anybody, whether it's hard drives or whether it's camera makers or sorry, card makers. You don't see that. They're really standing by what they look at as reliability on the card. Now, the last note I'm going to make: when you buy one of these cards, if you do need to do an upgrade firmware down the road, you will need the card reader from them. So just budget that in as well. That's it for me. My name is Nikos. Hit like, subscribe if you have any questions about this, or if you're thinking about buying it and you're comparing it to other cards. Leave your comment below. I'll get to it. And of course, check out these two videos.